This is Sarah Tebow, and I am the host of the Side Woo podcast. Join me for conversations about mental health and metaphysical issues from the lens of living a more creative, fulfilling, and connected life. From the physical to the metaphysical and beyond, welcome to the Side Woo. Well, today I have Julia Haft-Candell, and I'm here in her studio in beautiful San Fernando Street. Mm-hmm. I don't know what, technically Atwater Village, right?
Yeah, I think it's Glassell Park and Atwater Village. It's technically the border of Glendale is like right nearby.
Right, that's true. You could walk to Glendale.
Yes, but
not anything that someone would recommend walking to Glendale.
Well, depends.
I mean, I do it to go to the Starbucks because I'm basic. But
well, if you feel like I can't bring the dog there, but Forest Lawn is a really nice place to walk.
Oh yeah,
and
that's true.
It's like right around the corner, and there's really cool. I mean, it's pretty, but also there's like a really interesting. There's the largest oil painting, I think, in the world, supposedly, on canvas.
What?
That's claim to fame. And it's like giant. It's like presented in a theater in this really weird
I've been wanting to go there, and I remember like Rima Gloom had a show, or she was part of a show there.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like showing in a cemetery? That
they
sounds
have a
amazing.
Gallery. They have So that's worth a walk over to.
Cool.
Not on a hot day.
Right. Yeah, I know it gets really hot in this area because it's all like concrete jungle.
It's a lot of concrete.
Very busy, fumey street. Not a lot of trees, unfortunately.
It's true. Yeah.
But otherwise, great. You know, once you get to Forest Lawn, you can walk around.
Yeah.
It's shady.
There are trees there.
Yes. Shady, just like this conversation is going to be. No, just kidding.
Not.
No gossip. But I am really excited. We're going to later do a tarot reading. For those who are listening, you know, you can go to our YouTube channel, and also there's going to be a video version of this podcast. So if you're not seeing it, go and look for it, because then you'll get to see Julia's beautiful handmade cards.
Yes, and it's tarot inspired, but it's all invented imagery.
Got it.
Because which we can get into much more.
Let's get into it. Well, okay, so first question is, what sign are you?
I'm a Leo sun.
Oh, wow.
And an Aquarius rising.
Okay.
So opposites.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
then a Capricorn moon.
Which one?
Capricorn moon.
Me too.
Oh, nice.
I love it. Serious business.
Yeah, serious business.
Yeah, how does that show up for you?
The Capricorn specifically.
Is this like the most fun thing you can do then as a Capricorn moon? Like, that's why I do this, because it's like networking is fun. No,
it's business, but it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to think about, because your moon is supposed to be your emotions.
Yeah.
And so I like to think about how it's shown up. Like I've created this whole glossary in my work where I like put words to feelings and emotions and like define things that are hard to define. And I think that's me being super Capricorn.
Well, and that's earthy, right? Too. It's like very much trying to lock things down into the physical world where we can understand.
Making patterns and defining and organizing.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I never thought about that as Capricorn, but yeah, I guess that's all part of the like the ladder climbing is you gotta get things in order.
Yes. I also really like when things are organized, but I'm not intuitively an organized person.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of the...
Or I need the assistant to do it for me. Like I want it done, but I don't have time or energy most of the time. Like I'll get kind of like a bi-monthly whirlwind of like, let me clean my brushes.
Yes.
And maybe sort my paints out, but yeah, mostly it's a hot mess.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hot mess.
Well, and I'll show some footage of this, but yeah, there's a lot of like things in motion, which I think is really cool to see. Like, you know, you go to an artist studio and sometimes they're like totally cleaned up, ready for a visit. And this is more like, oh, I've been working all day. Yeah. You just caught me in a moment.
Here I am.
Yeah. Well, and like in terms of your kind of like woo-woo spiritual background, like, you know, you're into tarot. How did that kind of start in your life, and when did that make its way into your work?
I'd say it's been a slow burn. Like it's been a lot. It's hard for me to like accept the woo-woo in my life. And so I was raised in the Bay Area, and
oh wow, yeah,
very like kind of like sciencey family, like very like we were Jewish but like atheist Jews, and like so it was like no God, you know. And
that was my former co-host.
Oh,
like
cool.
She would have really connected with you about
I
that,
think
Liz.
it's like a common experience, at least in the Bay Area. And so but my grandma lived in LA.
Oh, okay.
And she was a little bit more spiritual, not in a religious way, but just into numerology.
Oh yeah.
And like she would always talk about her doing her metaphysics, which was like imagining things, like, you know, imagining how you wanted things to go.
Like visualizing.
Yeah, yes. But she would call it her metaphysics, which I'm not sure if that's like the correct term. I love
that though. Like it sounds so official. Like I'm going to go practice my metaphysics.
She would tell us, make sure you do your metaphysics.
Metaphysics, yeah.
And,
instead of like quantum physics, I'm going to go metaphysic for a bit.
Yeah. But she was pretty different than my parents. This is my mom's mom. And so I don't know.
Well, and it's funny because I would think of the Bay Area as also very witchy woo.
It can be, but it's also very like it's like more political, at least in my experience. It's like, let's organize, let's make change. But it didn't feel like there was much space for like searching out spirituality, at least for me.
Yeah. In your family. What did your parents do?
My dad was a family physician.
Oh, cool.
They're both retired now. Yeah. Okay. Family physician. And my mom was a nurse.
Wow.
And
okay.
my sister,
healers.
Yeah. And my sister's a surgeon. What? So I'm the artist and also the, you know, spiritual one. And
and what did your grandma do? Grandmother.
I don't think she always wanted to be a lawyer or like something very high powered, but she didn't really have a career. Yeah.
Because it wasn't possible really.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So like when you went into art, were they like, cool. Okay. Why not?
You know, they've always been very supportive of art. I think they just worried that, you know, as any parents would, like, how would it work out financially? And so I was an international relations major also in college. I think partially because I was like, well, this is, you know, logical. And partially because I couldn't decide. Oh, bye, Fran. Bye, Fran.
Where did you go to school?
UC Davis.
Oh, cool. Bye, Fran.
Bye, Fran.
We'll see you in a bit.
You can hang out if you want.
She's like,
I don't know what's happening, but I don't like it. Okay, so
we're just sitting here. We're boring.
Yeah,
we're not
she's
playing with
gonna
her.
Sniff. Maybe she'll get into trouble. So I did that, but then I didn't want to do international relations.
Because what even is that?
I know that's the thing. They
trick you in like the humanities. It's like, that's not a job really.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do so many other things to get the job.
You do. And I don't even know what those jobs would be.
/ have parents working in the embassy already.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
I enjoyed that you could take a lot of classes from different areas. 'Cause I think that was exciting. Like you could take Spanish, like I had to take a language and I had to take like you know, women's studies or, you know, gender studies and stuff like that. So it was like very widespread. But then, I just kind of ended up in ceramics and art and ceramics specifically.
Which in Davis seems like the natural thing to end up in.
Yeah.
It's like the history of that city is like all about the funk art.
It is, which I didn't know, but it worked out. But yeah, I think my parents have been actually really wonderful about the art thing. They're very supportive. It's just, I think,
when did it like switch from, oh my God, we're so worried about you, to like, oh, she's got this. Okay, this is a legitimate career path.
I don't know.
Did it ever happen?
I think it happened earlier than I thought. Like, I think a lot of the anxiety is like me worrying about if they're worrying about me, and me wanting to prove that I have things together.
Yeah, I can see that.
When maybe they weren't as worried as I thought. I'm not really sure. I should ask them. But probably when I taught a lot, adjunct, you know, like, and teaching at universities, and like, I think a lot of that, it's more prestigious to say like I'm a professor, you know. It's like it's understandable
with doctor parents. I can see that being like a bonus.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I know what that is, and that's like respectable.
Yeah.
So that helped, I think, to have those jobs.
So did you start reading tarot like at a young age, or like how'd you get into tarot? Or oracle decks, or?
I think that I was more familiar with the I Ching earlier on.
Oh, okay.
Actually, my dad introduced me to the I Ching.
Whoa,
so
okay.
There are some.
My upcoming guest is going to be all about the I Ching.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear and watch that.
Yeah. It's so like complex.
It is.
And
I don't really.
He carried around this whole like book about it.
Yeah.
That you had to reference while you were doing
it's a big book.
Yeah. It's like a Bible, basically. Like it's like thick.
It's very thick. I have that book.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. It's my dad's. He gave it to me. Yeah, which is sort of like a weird, unexpected thing that like, I just, you know, my dad, who I don't consider super spiritual, is then.
Yeah. Like when would he use it as a surgeon? He's like, got to roll the dice on this one.
I think
what's going to happen today?
Well, I think like he is really, I don't know. Yeah, he's very complex. He talks about his feelings a lot, and like,
that's maybe the Bay Area influence.
Yeah, for sure.
The sensitive man.
When he was younger, he was
man.
like in an acting troupe.
Oh, that's nice.
Both my parents have very like creative pasts, but then they both like went into very logical careers.
Yeah.
But lost my train of thought. The I Ching. Yeah. I remember. Okay, so I went to. I think I was just trying to decide where to go to college.
Oh, okay.
And having a really, really hard time deciding. And he pulled out the I Ching.
Whoa! And was that the first time that you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, funny.
And
what, like, because it isn't specific. Like, go to college. Yeah.
No. It's like, it just tells you a story, a very vague story.
Yeah.
And then you think about how you feel.
Like you kind of apply it to the situation.
Yeah. Which I think is very similar to tarot, and similar to the deck that I've made, where. It's not telling you anything specific. It's hard to have like a yes, no answer, or a question that
it's not
demands
like a pendulum or where it's like, and people asking me that, I don't know. So you did like a reading for the listeners. You did a reading series at night when you had your installation, which is when I first learned that you did this. Did people ask you a lot of yes, no questions, or?
No, because I don't really ask them to tell me a question.
Oh, okay, cool.
The spread I do most often is based on tarot. It's like a 3-card spread that is past, present, future.
Okay.
But so you can ask a question, but I think people usually just keep it in their minds.
In their mind, okay.
Or you don't ask a question, you just kind of see.
And why do you think that works? Like, because I do something similar where if I'm like at a bar and people don't know me, they're like, well, I'm not going to tell you my question, or maybe they don't want me to say it or to say it in front of their friends or something. And then I just respond. Like, it's like, I have a way of like linking in, but what is it that you do to kind of get ready to channel?
I just like the cards really work.
Yeah.
So they channel, I think, when they pick, and sometimes they'll like rearrange, no, this is the past, this is the future, you know, the order of them. And that will,
interesting.
after the reading, like after
Meaning,
we
like,
talk,
you're like, oh, actually, this is supposed to be here.
they'll do it. I won't do it. Yeah.
Oh, the people.
Yeah. They'll say like, like at the last minute, sometimes they'll be like, oh no, I'm going to switch these cards.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, okay. So that happens, and it always sort of makes sense based on. So usually I just do the read without knowing anything. I just say these are the cards, and I tell the cards are very much like aspects of the I Ching where I have definitions invented for things like water or swimmers or nothing, everything or infinity. Those definitions sometimes are familiar and sometimes they're creative, like invented. And sometimes there's origin stories also that I've made to go with them. And then just by like talking about those definitions or origin stories, it can attune the person I'm doing the reading for to their intuition.
Yeah, I see. So then they're like on the same page as you, and you kind of like link in together to like meaning, or
yeah, I mean, I just describe and then
it like hits them, kind of, which is a little bit what I Ching does, right?
And sometimes they share more than you know, oh, this makes sense because I recently left my job, and then it like I've found
you don't like continue to give feedback after that.
Sometimes it really depends.
We're gonna see, I guess. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, I guess, because we'll find out, right?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the person, because some people are just very open and share a lot, and so it turns into more of a conversation, and then it's more, and then I you know, I'm like, my intuition is kind of like I'm reading them and sensing what is more of what's happening in their mind and their life, what's coming, what's been in the past. But sometimes they are much more closed off, which is fine too, and we just kind of leave it there.
Yeah. And why do you think people go to strangers for advice? Because I love it.
I love it too. I do. I don't know, why do you?
I think like one's like when I first started, I was like, what is this person? Like, what could they possibly tell me? Is it going to be real? You know, kind of the hope that it will be real. And then once it's starting to check out, and now that I believe it completely, it's more like, oh, I love this person's way of reading cards, so I want to get her feedback because I've been getting in my head about something and I can't read for myself in a reliable way. Mm-hmm. So like I'll go to this woman, Amelia, who's been a guest on the podcast. Yeah. And so like I want to hear her take on what's happening, because it might be different than the way I would read about it, even with the same cards, you know? So yeah, I think that's why. But yeah, there's definitely that like, are they going to be legit feeling of me? But then also when people like have never gotten a reading before and they like come to me and they're like, okay, like, and I'm not going to tell you anything, you know? And it's very like, are you going to tell me something? Or are you full of shit?
Yeah. I really like funneling out all of the busyness in my brain. So I've found that talking to someone, like going to somebody like a reader or a psychic, if I trust them, then what they say affirms what my intuition is saying and kind of clears out all of the other stuff, all the worry and doubt and what if this, what if that, and makes me feel like I can trust that more.
Totally. That's a good way of putting it. I think unless someone's like a medium and they're channeling a relative or something, they're like hopefully being a mirror to you, and that nothing should be too big of a surprise.
Yeah.
Unless you have a blind spot. Like at one time I did a reading and someone like I I could just tell like they had a real blind spot about their job. And I was at a co-working office, and I was like, what about your job? There's something there. And she's like, no, it's great. And then she started talking about it, and I was like, no, I think you have to get out of there. And she's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, this is what the cards are saying. But I mean, do what you want, obviously. But I was like, I think there's something not as good as you think it is, you know, but it's kind of rare that happens, honestly, that I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know if I've come across that yet that I'm aware of.
Oh, is that your phone?
Oh, no, it's a cricket.
Oh my God, there's an actual cricket.
It's an actual cricket. Yeah. There are probably many actual
It's kind of
crickets.
a great sound.
They really like it in here.
Well, speaking of here, maybe you could say where we are, like in terms of your studio, like.
Yeah, we're sitting in this area that I don't usually sit in, but it's kind of a nice setting in my studio.
Is this silk?
This is silk.
Oh, cool.
It's really new, kind of experimental work that I've been doing, making these tapestries with silk and really, really watery paint and dyes. In general, I've been really interested in like watery, messy paint and glaze, things that make spills and kind of bleed together, and like thinking about what they do, just like the physics of spills and water and the chaos of it and how beautiful it is.
Well, and silk as a material is so gorgeous and
it's so
like
pretty,
dense and
yeah,
light at the same time.
Yeah, I've been thinking about these materials that are like traditionally valuable and kind of like messing with that a little bit in terms of how I use them. Like the ceramic sculptures are obviously clay is like dirt. It's very kind of like lower end of the value hierarchy, but I use gold luster on it, which is real gold suspended in pine resin, and so then I'm adding this like really high.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. And is there like a faux gold? Because I know you can buy like cheaper versions.
Yeah, like there's different
like
scales.
Western or something has this like Aztec gold finish, but I don't know if it's actual gold.
Yeah, there's a lot of like imitation gold glazes, but yeah, there's quite a. They look really different. Like the higher end of the gold range, it's like very, very gold.
Yeah, like really beautiful.
Yeah,
and looks like authentically gold.
Yeah, and I'm also working in bronze, and I'm making bronze sculptures, but also adding bits of bronze onto the ceramic objects. So then,
do you do the casting and stuff here, or are you making the models?
I've been working in wax, and so I bring wax to the foundry, and there's no mold necessary.
What's the process called again?
Lost wax.
Lost wax, yeah.
And so I work with artisan bronze in Oxnard, and they're really great.
Cool.
And so they've been really generous in like teaching me some techniques of doing that, so I can bypass the mold making process, which doesn't really interest me.
No.
And then,
well, why would you when you don't have to?
Yeah, exactly.
With lost wax. And the downside of lost wax is you make the one and it only is the one.
It's a unique thing. Yeah.
Which benefit and
I don't know.
minus,
Yeah. It's a long conversation probably on its own because
it's
about the market. Yeah.
Sculpture nerds. Yeah. Or / market nerds.
Yeah,
I know. Let's not bring the market into this nonsense. Yeah. No. This is a fun, lighthearted moment. Let's not ruin it. It's Friday afternoon, kind of warm.
Yeah, it's a little hot.
We don't need to talk about money.
No. But yeah, so silk, bronze, ceramic, gold, like these things that I'm interested in really disrupting these hierarchies of material, and also using things that are more traditionally valuable to communicate these ideas that are like kind of hard to grasp sometimes, like paradox and things that have like multiple meanings depending on context, and spirituality and touch. And
for your like forms that you're working through over there's kind of these like organic like tube like forms that make these kind of like endless loops.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like arrive at these imagery, I guess? It's not really imagery if it's like a sculpture, but
I think it's imagery. I started
motifs.
I started as a drawing
drawing
and painting person, so I still think very much in 2D.
Oh, okay. Because I saw your animation that you showed for this one talk, and the way you described it in the talk was that it kind of is a representation of the way you work. And I thought you'd done it like as kind of an extra project, like kind of on the side, but
it's really, I mean, it's both. It's like showing how I draw a lot, really quick drawings, kind of like that animation, and one shape quickly becomes another shape through small adjustments. But most of the shapes that I make now I started making them intuitively. I used to make figurative sculpture, like mostly people. And then that slowly just became more and more like parts of bodies and abstracted forms. But the figure is still a really big influence in the shapes.
Yeah, like you have a lot of hands and like these nondescript. I think it's nice because you can project the human onto it without being like, it's this person. Like it's not a portrait.
Yeah. I didn't want it to be as specific as a portrait.
Yeah.
So a form I make a lot is the infinity. And that's given me the infinite, which is like what I call the world that I'm working from, which has kind of evolved into this like spiritual philosophy that guides.
Go on.
Like, it's like no more. I started thinking about it as like, I'm back up. Like I made a show in 2017 that was all of these infinity sculptures.
Oh yeah.
And on top of each sculpture, I carved a motif, like eyes or water or knots. Again, just kind of going from my intuition of like different shapes that interested me. And then I made a zine that I called the Glossary of Terms and Symbols that was available at the show, that served as a reference guide for viewers so they could like look at the different motifs on the sculptures and then see how I define these different images and like motifs.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love you literally built a lexicon of your language and like when you think about going to the infinite universe, like what's there?
That's when you go there, that's like all these shapes, like, and so now since then, I think back then there was like 12 or 13 shapes and now there's 27.
Oh, wow.
So it's expanded. I've taken some away. I've added some
and kind of like the English language.
Yeah. It's always evolving.
Did you ever speak like Hebrew or no? Okay.
Nope.
Because that has a lot more letters, right?
I don't even know.
Okay, sorry. Not to like pigeonhole you, but I don't know either.
I don't know, but yeah,
that's cool.
It's like an evolving world. And when I made the glossary, I started thinking about it as like a alternate dimension. I think because I was reading a lot of sci-fi.
Oh, interesting.
And then as it's grown and evolved, I think it's really become like a philosophy and maybe spirituality, which I still feel a little like new about.
A new religion that people can join if they want to be part.
It's kind of culty, yeah.
I was gonna say, just pay a little money. You can go to the infinite world if you want.
It's true though.
Monthly payment of $199.
It's not true of maybe that would be smart actually, but but like,
I would go to the infinite world at least once.
It's really nice.
Sounds
here.
really
There's
good.
like all the things that are celebrated are like self-empowerment and connection and collaboration and demystification, and like it's all very much about community, but like really not just like community, like
a buzzword or something.
like it's not. And
Well, and I like that you said demystification too, because I feel like that was one of my turnoffs of like really formalized witchcraft, where I always feel like if you have to be really, what's the word that they use? Like you have to like make your way in through all these loops or jump through all these hoops to get to the top. It's like the top could be Scientology. You don't know. Like you do not know what you're getting into. So why would you join something where it's so secretive? I don't know. I don't
agree.
like that.
And I don't like all these rules.
But I mean, no shade to anyone who's into that. I know people who are into that kind of witchcraft.
Yeah.
I respect it. I do think there's some things that people would just really poo-poo if they like, you know, if you're not into mediumship or whatever spells working, then you're maybe not a good energy to bring in to like a circle. But at the same time, like, I don't know. Why you doing something that you gotta be so weird about and cagey about?
Yeah,
no.
I feel that way about like religion in general, and like it shouldn't be so hard, like and it shouldn't be alienating. I mean, I even feel like that about tarot sometimes, which is why I've like gone off of it a bit, like, and done my own system of it, because some of the imagery has a lot of baggage and there's like such specifics. And so I am using these, like the language that I use, because it's like I really want people to feel like they can do it too, like they can take part and like participate and trust themselves. It's like a lot about like trusting yourself. You don't need like
a guru.
No, you don't need a guide even. Like you just need to like figure out how to listen to your intuition.
That's honestly been the biggest lesson, is like anyone who makes it sound like you need them is like not to be trusted.
Exactly.
You know, like the more someone locks down, like we need to work together so you can get better at this thing or whatever. Like that's always, big red flag now.
I agree.
It took a while though to figure that out, because you think, like I'm a teacher's pet, so I want to be the best student, you know? But
and I think because everything's so unknown, like by nature in life, and humans,
the mystery,
the
cricket mystery,
like, and humans really love answers. Like we yearn for like, just tell me, you know?
Yes.
Me too. Like that's,
oh my God, yeah.
So then when someone gives you a clear answer, sometimes it's like, you know, it's like intoxicating.
Totally.
Even if it's like not true.
Well, one of the sketchiest commercials that they like play on the radio, it's like the medium.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking? California mediums.
No.
They're like, feel the comfort of certainty or something. And you're like,
no,
ew,
red flag.
That's so icky.
Yeah. Like I'm like, feel the comfort of uncertainty. Like I want everyone to get more and more comfortable. Me too. I'm like speaking to myself. Like I want to get more comfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah.
And
I would
like
really
not knowing. And if everybody did, then like we would, I think, be better people.
Yeah. I mean, it would probably solve like 99% of problems if we could all just be comfortable with things we didn't understand.
Yeah. With like being a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Probably save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the whole like economy would probably collapse.
It would, yeah. But we'd be okay with it because we're comfortable with the uncertainty.
Right.
Let's see how much time we got. Yeah, like in terms of your work, like what has been the biggest challenge? Like you've been here for 10 years. You've probably seen LA shift into this like art world epicenter, at least on the West Coast. Like what's been the biggest like challenge, and then the coolest thing about being here as an artist in the time period? Because California in general, just, you know, moving to the Bay Area, like after the .com bust 1.0 or whatever, and then being there for like the second round of like Facebook and YouTube and everybody getting installed. And then it's just like, there's no turning back from that. Like we can't go backwards unless, you know, unless you like start taxing the companies and then they'll leave. But
right.
you know,
as they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I moved to Southern California in 2007. So I was in grad school at Cal State Long Beach. And so I've been in Southern California for a really long time now. And I sort of entered LA not knowing anything about it besides my grandma, who was like on the west side and, you know, just not crossing paths with art world.
Right.
Things.
She's doing her own thing over there.
Yeah.
Was she in like Venice or something?
She was in Brentwood.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know. It was
good for you, Grandma.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. She was really near the Getty.
Oh, wow.
In this like retirement community.
Cool.
Up there. Yeah. It was really nice. But it was like the 405 and, you know, the 3rd Street Promenade. That's
Not
like
nice
what,
for you.
Yeah. It was like, I had a very specific idea of what Los Angeles was. And so when I was in grad school, I kind of figured I would move back home to the Bay Area after because, you know, LA sucks according to everybody in the Bay Area, or it used to. You know, that was like the thing that everyone agreed on.
Which is crazy
to
think about. Oh my God.
I don't know if it's true anymore that they think that. I don't think so.
No.
But it was like a very one-sided chip on the shoulder kind of like.
Yeah. There's a lot of Bay Area listeners, so I'll be curious if we get any.
I'm curious. Yeah.
Please let us know in the comments.
If that still is a rivalry. But yeah, I didn't think I'd like it down here. But then I started going to art openings and I started teaching in grad school, and then right out after grad school I taught at Cal State Long Beach and Cal State Northridge, and just started kind of like
doing all the rounds.
Yeah, all of a sudden I was like in the adjunct pools and
how did you do that? You just were like filling out the different calls for lecturers, and
it was so much nepotism.
Okay, that's what I kind of assumed. I was like, is anyone going to read these applications?
I don't think I applied until they were like, you need to be like, we want you to teach this class, but you need to be in the pool so that you're like, you know, so
get in the pool and then network a bunch. In other words.
No, opposite. Network.
Oh, I see. Don't waste your time until someone tells you to apply.
I don't know. I just like...
That was kind of always what I thought about teaching.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't ever apply. They'd just invite me and then I'd be like, yeah.
That's usually how I think that's almost always how it worked, with exception to like one full-time visiting position I had.
Okay.
Which was at Scripps. That was like, you know, apply, interview, all the interviews, the, you know, on-campus interview, all of that. Yeah. But for the most part, all the adjunct jobs I've ever had, I think have just been like either me telling people I want to teach, and then a former professor telling a former professor, or, you know, it's like all just very...
Okay. So I need to get on the horn a little bit.
Do you though? This is also another long conversation, but...
Bummersville. Teaching in California.
Do you want to get in that?
No, I don't actually.
Because it's not great.
Well, I know I was chatting with people on like one of the WhatsApp groups.
I'm on that too. I saw.
Did you see that? Where I was like, someone's like, oh, like
drama.
Otis was hiring, and I was like, all right, I'll look. It was like $20 to $25 was like the highest paying for like a manager that you would probably need a graduate degree for. And I'm like, great, but then who's going to pay my loans? Because that's barely going to cut the cost of living, if even that.
No,
like,
that's terrible.
What about us single cat ladies? Like, you know, we can't afford that.
We got to get really good cat food too.
Cat food is legit
really expensive. I know, and the litter, and tell me about it.
Really? Okay, we need to discuss offline, because I just got 2 kittens and they're starting to eat a lot more. And I'm like,
I had 2 cats for a long time.
God, like, who's gonna pay for this?
Yeah, no, it's real.
Because of course they're very picky too. Like, you can't just give them whatever you want.
No, you have to get the best stuff.
Yeah,
you don't want to mess with cats.
No,
you really don't. But yeah, I started my own school called the Infant School recently.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's been a few years now, but as a response to what I felt like was missing and wrong with with academia and art school and art classes within academia, which, you know, I went to college and grad school, so like,
well, exactly. But you know, like, okay, I just spent a lot of money. Like, how can I pare this down or
something? And also, like, I went to state schools, and I feel very, you know, lucky
so
that
it's probably more affordable.
Yeah. But even with that, I know friends who like went to state schools and are just paying off their debt now because, you know, you still take loans out, and yeah, you can't get paid enough to pay off those loans. No. So, and it changes your whole life trajectory, because
it did for me, for sure. Like, I had private loans because of SFAI.
Yeah.
And I was just telling my mom today, like, I wrote this whole claim with this like organization that helps you get out of like loan deals when it's like shady or the school is closed. And so I filed a complaint through them. And then Navient comes back, who is like the parent company of Earnest, who like now manages the refinance loans. And they're like, because you refinance the loans, you wouldn't even be eligible for that. But they were the owner of the loans before. It was just under first Sallie Mae, which closed because they were so illegal.
I remember I had Sallie Mae loans.
Yeah. And then they just went to straight Navient, and Navient still owns the loans, but through the subsidiary of Earnest. So I'm like, no, but you still own the loans, and it's still bullshit because my school has closed. So
it's crazy that you owe all this money to a school that doesn't exist.
You know, it is crazy. I mean, like, at least my federal loans will get waived without taxes. But yeah, it's like, I'm not going to get into the details, but it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I know. It's happening everywhere.
It is. Yeah. And, you know, like, God forbid you should get a lower interest rate because, you know, if your school closes like SFAI, like, what are you going to freaking do? Like, so someone start the lawsuit. I will join you. I'll do the paperwork.
Yeah.
I'll help you. I've got the Capricorn.
Yeah. You'd be good.
I'm ready.
Some spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I love spreadsheets.
But no, I mean, to turn this to a more positive note, I love the idea of creating these schools outside of academia, and not to say that academia should be thrown out completely.
No, but like, to think that's the only, it felt like that was the only option.
Totally.
And I think a lot of students feel that, and a lot of faculty feel like that.
Yeah. I
know that for sure, because when like a lot of people who have been adjuncting for a while or full-time professors are like, wow, how did you do that? You know, and I don't always know what to tell them because it's happening and it's evolving. But I think I thought that there had to be another way. Like I think about this a lot with all of the systems that I see in like in front of me or in the world. Like we're sort of presented with these very finite looking amounts of options, and if we're creative, then we can figure out alternatives. It just might not have been done before. So,
and so what kind of classes do you teach, and like, what's the setup for it?
So it's based in ceramics, but I'd like it to expand to more media in the future. But that's what I have the most experience in teaching. So, the most popular class is called Build Big. And I teach people how to build large-scale sculptures in parts so that you can build something really big, but it's stacking.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm super into it.
Yeah, and so you can have like a little kiln, but still make something really big.
Yeah.
And so it's like self-empowerment and like not having to rely on the institutions that have these giant kilns.
Well, and being like clever, you know, because a lot of art is always like, oh, like my studio isn't big enough or my thing isn't nice enough. Like
there's always a reason to not do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And it was something that I taught a lot in different colleges, but it seemed like people weren't really people weren't learning large scale ceramics otherwise. Like large scale was like,
right, because of the kiln space and they didn't understand the utility maybe of it, or
I think it's just a pain in the butt to like to store, it's like things break. So a lot of is rooted in how I was taught ceramics at Davis by Annabeth Rosen, who like we made a big communal pile of clay, and then we had to make like giant like our life-size sculptures and parts, and many things broke. We would fire these big kiln stacks like in this giant kiln and like have to help each other load and unload, and I got really used to things cracking and breaking and falling apart just from the start, and it was really freeing in a way, because I think a lot of people learn ceramics with this very like precious like scared mentality.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that, which is great. And so I feel like a lot of my students, I'm trying to like get that out of them. I'm trying to like rid them of that.
Well, and that you're like this scientist alone, where, you know, it's like collaborative and.
Yeah, it's super collaborative. So after Davis, I realized that like that wasn't really happening. Like there wasn't like, because of what we were making and how we were making it, there was this really great community. We had a supportive group of students and peers, and I went to these other studios and rarely found that kind of supportive community. And so I've been trying through the Infinite School to really like make that again.
Yeah, that sounds so fun. I mean, like, what a fun class, especially when you're like, I like wouldn't imagine that I would ever be able to do that.
You could do it.
So now I'm like, oh my God, I could.
Anyone can do it.
Why
we
not?
have people that have never touched clay before make something like really big.
Totally. And then if you really don't want it around anymore, you know what you do with clay? You smash it.
You smash it. It's so fun. It's very cathartic.
Oh my God.
Or you put it outside and put a plant in it.
Totally. You know, you're in LA. Like everyone's got something with a little succulent going there.
The other class that's a regular part of the curriculum is demystifying glaze, which is like really basics of glaze mixing.
Okay.
Because that's also something that people don't learn very often. Sometimes in school you take this glaze calculation class, which is like chemistry. It's like so tedious and awful and like useful, but like kind of hard to like apply to just like casually making ceramics. Yeah. And then otherwise you just buy your glazes at the store, and there's like, it's kind of like baking samples. Like you can just like mix glazes with like, so the class teaches you like really basic tools of like mixing your own glazes, so you can do all these like crazy like things that seem really like, they are very cool like science projects too, like alchemy and, you know, this like weird melting and blobby and stuff like that. That's true, huh? Alchemy. I never thought about that. Alchemical,
but especially with your gold glaze. Yes. I mean, wow.
And the bronze. So I also put these like bronze bits on, and they like melt and make a mess, and that's very alchemical.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, one thing about ceramics that I get envious of is it's kind of like a makeover show every time you do it. You know, it's
before
like,
and after.
Yeah, there's always the before that is like the same brown color. And then you have the after that's like, God only knows what it's going to be.
God only knows.
Whereas painting, you're like always really aware.
You know, yeah. 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 Yeah.
I love that.
It's cool and also really frustrating because you don't know. And then sometimes you have to like, what I do sometimes is have to like refire the kiln because I need like a little bit more pink or something on this piece, and
maybe that's like part of your ethos around like being more uncomfortable, you know, is like
right,
as a ceramicist you have to be, or you would really go crazy. You can't be a ceramicist.
There are many ceramicists though that are like very sure, like they know what they need to get, and they like, I am not that, and I would go crazy. But there are people that like are very, very specific about what they want to make, and they make it, and it's very cool.
And it's always like right on it.
I don't know if it's always. I think they still get, you know, like cracks and stuff like that. Yeah. But yes, no, I am most definitely more on the end of like let's leave some to chance and see what the process can teach me.
That's so cool. You have some beautiful, and so you do have a couple of like figures. Are those your pieces?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They're really new.
Okay.
I don't know what's gonna happen with them.
Well, I'll put in footage, but there's like a giant hand.
Yeah.
And then there's like a torso and then a person's like shoulder and head.
Yeah. It's
like
a swimmer.
I was going to say, it looks like they're kind of drowning maybe.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Metaphor for life.
Yeah. Hopefully not drowning.
Maybe it's more
swimming.
happy than that.
Yeah. Optimistic. Like
if it's sideways or like,
yeah.
I could see it being like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean,
They're kind of going like this.
they
right now.
are. Yeah.
Help.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's interesting what other people see.
Well, definitely. I mean, especially if you're learning how to draw and you accidentally make something look a different way than you're anticipating, that is always really awkward.
It is.
It's similar because you're
it's
illustrating something or rendering or.
This is like my first return to like I haven't made like a more representational figure in a while. I've done like a lot of hands and legs and bodily stuff, but I started making this figure and I don't know, like it's really like you can go creepy so quick.
Yeah, well, oh my God, totally.
Especially with like 3 dimensions. It's like I draw little doodles of people a lot, or like one of my cards is a swimmer.
Like having hands, like if the lights went out, you'd be like walking around, there are all these like hands.
It's interesting how quickly things can become like eerie, which maybe is fine.
Maybe good.
Yeah, maybe I need to lean into that.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Yeah.
Do you have any, like, speaking of forms appearing out of the darkness, like, do you have any like ghost stories? Are you someone who believes in all that?
I believe, but I also don't really seek out. Like I think when I'm in a place where I sense a presence, I kind of want to like let them do their thing and not get involved.
Yeah, you're just like.
So so I've like in my studio, I used to be in the studio just like in the same building, just over there. And I'm pretty sure there was some haunting, just like a wind that would come without reason, and kind of shuffle through the insulation thing that we have up here. And it was not like ominous. It was just like, okay, like
just hanging out.
And but I don't really have like physical manifestations of ghosts in my past, because I think I don't really want them.
You're not interested.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, I was at Yaddo, the residency a couple years ago, and that's where like it's so haunted.
I've heard that actually from Linda Geary.
It's
not
so
to out
haunted.
her. I'll maybe check that she can.
Yeah,
I can say her name, but
one
is the one with the trees that have eyes, right? All the birch trees.
Yeah.
Have like eyes, basically.
And there's like a million old paintings of children that died at young ages. And
why?
It's just it's
to like commemorate them or something.
Like it's a former state of this with the tragic story, and so that place is haunted. But I was kind of like, I'm not good. Like that whole.
You're like, shut it down, everybody.
I was like, I'm just gonna like
move you out from
eyes.
this.
Yeah, like I don't really want the ghost story.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think I just kind of stay
knocking
out of
on your door.
No, luckily.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, I think I let them do their thing.
That's cool. Yeah, and they probably know that and are like respectfully keeping their distance.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should we do some tarot?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. So these are the cards. Hi, Fran.
Well, Fran is getting up for a stretch.
Yeah. So the way that I do the readings, so the tarot inspired parts are the spread and the way that I have you choose cards.
Oh, okay.
So like shuffle,
Okay.
fan, whatever kind of way that you
Feels
get your
right.
energy on the cards, do that.
Okay.
You can shuffle through and then pick 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you feel like you've gotten your...
They're like
they're
high art cards.
they're on rag paper, so they're kind of hard to shuffle, but they feel really nice and soft.
So I'm gonna do this one. Okay. Oh. Oh. Well. My God, the volcano. Volcanoes have been kind of a motif in my work, so
Cool.
this is very. Oh, and then swim,
Oh, perfect.
because that kind of got mashed in with the volcano.
Oh, yeah,
but I'm
then
gonna
yes.
just assume that.
Okay.
Or do you want it facing you?
No,
So
no.
here, why don't we do?
Mm-hmm. The yearning.
Okay, is it helpful to say all of them at once?
Sure.
And then volcano.
Volcano.
And then swim.
Swim. Please excuse the Fran hairs
Oh,
that
cute
have
little fine
gotten
hairs.
everywhere.
It honestly just looked like part of like the pencil marks or something.
All right. Well,
Organic.
Gonna have to get a roller for the cards. Okay. Which is this past, present, future? Past, present. You picked them like this. Is
Yeah,
that the
so
order?
that's probably past.
Past. I'm gonna turn it
Yeah,
towards you
turn it back towards
so
me.
you can look at them.
Okay, cool.
Past, present, future. But time is not linear, so you know.
That's true. It's all an illusion
Yeah.
anyway. So
Okay, so the yearning, this is what I call that feeling in your chest, usually, or that's where I have it, that feels like an ache. And I think it's kind of central to being a human, but it feels really uncomfortable. And so we try to fill it with various things like shopping or like ice cream and all these great things that are not bad necessarily. However, they won't really solve it.
Right.
Right?
It's
like
a
it's
Band-Aid.
still there. Yeah. And the yearning card is a reminder that that connection or like that feeling is actually like a superpower. It's sort of like this like cosmic connection to something, you know, like universal. And rather than even just like get used to it, like you can use it for creativity. Like that is the source of your creative power.
Wow. Oh my God, I love it, because it is a little bit like the black hole that is the void in all of us, but then more to it than that. It kind of spreads out into this like washy. Interesting. Oh, okay. So use it as part of my creativity. Okay.
Yeah, like tap into it.
Interesting. Okay.
But it doesn't always feel good. So it's sort of like also like a recontextualizing or like telling a new story about that ache when you feel it, and not like a everything's fine kind of like covering up, but like okay, like this, I feel this. What is that telling me about creativity or like about the universe, rather than just like wanting it to go away?
Okay.
And then volcano is this force that is like a eruption, a very destructive at times energy that then creates in its destruction. So lava is coming from the center of the earth, and then it spreads and really knocks down everything in its path. As soon as it cools, it becomes new land, and I find that very exciting. And it's like so old, like this
it
cycle.
is the planet.
Yeah.
Like it's the earth.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's been happening way longer than we've existed and way longer than we will exist. And it's also like this reminder that the ground is actually moving. Like things that we assume are like solid are not solid.
Yeah. And it's so funny how much this is aligning with my work, like especially my last show.
Perfect.
Because it was all about these like mountains and also a couple volcano paintings that was all about what was happening like underneath the appearance of these super solid mountains and like what's the energy, what's the kind of movement that happens that we don't initially see, but then once you're like hiking, you can kind of see or over time. Woo. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay. I feel like, I want like the 3 and then we can maybe talk about.
Yeah. Swim is sometimes a literal reminder to swim. Swimming it comes up a lot in the infinite in this world, because I feel like that's where I kind of connect with the spiritual realm when I'm swimming. I swim laps, and it like is very meditative, and it's this activity where you have to use your whole body at the same time, but like don't overthink it. So that's kind of a nice metaphor, you know, like use all your parts, but don't think about it too much.
Yeah,
like
you'll
keep
just
your mind out of
sink. Otherwise,
You'll
like
just
if you're
like,
like thinking too hard. Yeah,
exactly.
that's a good point.
And it's a reminder to feel all of the negative space around you. So it's a call to presence, and like to be present and feel the air or the water around you. But also like when you swim, that water is really like supporting you. And also a reminder to kick, like use your feet and propel yourself, use your legs, because there's a lot of power in that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So I feel like for me, like I've gone through this like major like identity transformation over the past like 6 months, even to a year.
Sounds like
very volcanic, and like, you know, dating and like
starting from here though.
Starting from here. Yeah. Like feeling like, you know, my like romantic, especially life, and just my life in general, not reflecting really the authentic truth of who I was, and not really understanding fully like what that was about. And then like I started making these volcano paintings last year during this residency that I feel like you should totally do, because they do bronze casting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But, and again, like being like, all right, like what's this about? You know, not realizing like I'd had some kind of like inkling towards like, you know, being more queer or whatever, but the transformation of like opening that can of worms has like kind of exploded like lava, burning everything in its path. Like, oh my God, questioning my whole like entire life, you know, through this new lens. And then I think swimming, I feel like I am like super Scorpio, and it is like one of the, when I go to Iceland where there's lots of volcanoes, like I try to go in the pool every day, and it's like a total soul remakeover, like makeover when you go there and you can just sit in the pool.
Yep.
So it's something that I don't give myself that here, but it's like, why not? So maybe I should swim more.
I think so. And also it's such a nice progression when you talk about it. It makes a lot of sense. Also because there's like a lot of like yearning and queerness are really related.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And which I'll have to find a reading for you that I can't remember right now, that my friend sent me.
Oh, cool.
And then, yes, as you say about volcanoes, but swimming as a future is like really optimistic. All of the swimmers are always smiling.
Yeah, I was going to say they're so happy. Oh my God, they're so cute. And they're like together, but also independent, which I feel like is one of my relationship. Not to, I mean, we've all on the show is very TMI. So
please,
I'm very like, you know, come from this really tight knit family. Everyone's like kind of codependent. And so I just am like, you know, very connected to people in some ways. And then in other ways, like isolate because I don't know how to create good boundaries.
Also, you're a Scorpio.
Super Scorpio. That is a natural thing, right? Like you need that alone time. That explains it. I was like, Fran has got a secret side. Oh my God, I love that. Oh, Fran.
I love a Scorpio.
You're so sweet, Scorpio. No. She's
but
like,
there is like, you have that, like you need both. You need like this like intense intimacy, but you also need like, well, I need my space. Like give me my space.
Well, and I have a lot of Libra, which also makes me think of like having all these people around.
Yeah.
Like, yay, we're having fun and like swimming, but we're also very seriously like pursuing some kind of journey. Yeah.
It's like, and it's also just like, just be, you know, like,
yeah, the beingness
like
of
just
it
like feel
in the water
and like float and be in the water. And because you've been through this, so now you can kind of just like coast a little bit.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I love that as advice. I have this t-shirt that I wore for Haley Barker's talk that said like less doing and more being.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think this is actually advice for
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yes, for
everyone.
everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That is a good reminder.
Yeah, but I love that because if you throw in a little water, like what's better than that?
It's
like,
true. Yeah, you should swim.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. This is so amazing. I had no idea, given the work that you make, like what your imagery was going to be, you know, because I was thinking there'd be a lot more like organic shapes that weren't as legible, you know, unless
it is a lot more. I mean, there are some.
I know. Can we kind of look through?
Yeah. So there's legs.
Yeah,
so
if you
some
wanna
of them are
hold
more
some of them
abstract, like punch kick, which is kind of like this leg kicking the goo.
And these like horseshoe arches.
Arches, yeah.
Oh yeah, the punch kick. This is a little bit more like or your animation that you did.
Definitely.
Where I like that because it's like the way that you knead dough or and like clay, like large amounts of clay to like form it. You do kind of have to like be a little violent.
Yeah, there's like a lot of metaphor in that too. Like there's the punching kick, which I do talk about, like also when I talk about slab, which is another clay inspired.
Oh yeah. If you've got your slab roller,
no, but you
clay
don't.
nerds.
You don't need a slab roller. That's this kind of slab. You punch it and you kick it. Like you have to really compress it with your body, and to make a really good slab, it's actually better, I think, than having a slab roller.
God. What?
Yeah, but then that's like a very good metaphor, because like it's all this work to make something that's like a building block for something else, but the more you like put into it, the better foundation you have.
Yeah, well, and I love that it wouldn't be so regular the way like a machine made slab would be, like really even.
Yeah.
Hands, feelers. Oh, hello. Do you have anything coming up as we kind of wrap it up, like that you'd want to invite people to or make them aware of? Like, how can they find your store or your school? So yeah, my school, we're still accepting fall applications. We have classes in October, November, and December, and we have a website, theinfiniteschool.com, or Instagram, I think theinfinite.school or something like that. Cool. And then there goes Fran. And then I have a show at the Des Sasay Museum in Santa Clara, at Santa Clara University, that opens October 3rd. Nice. And that is a show that I put up last year at Pitzer College, and it's traveling to Santa Clara University and like expanding and changing a little bit, but has like all these different parts. Like there'll be an area for doing the readings. There's also a whole reading room built into the show called the Infinite Library, and a sculpture installation. Cool. Yeah, I love that. It's really scalable, if you will. It is. Yeah. Create this type of like vibe, and then from in our universe, and then from there you could literally do anything. It's a great idea. I find it very helpful, maybe because I'm of like going back to like Capricorn, yearning for organization. Sure. Yearning. Like, this is your burning hole. It's like organizing. Like, but then like organizing something that is really abstract, which is art, and like world building. And so I've found that if I have this like anchor of the infinite as a central point, then I have like the infinite school, the infinite deck, the infinite library. It's so great. And then it's like all these different kind of like arms of this wheel. Literally. Yeah. Arms. Exactly. We just had it. Hands, feelers. Yeah. Arms and feelers and hands. One time during COVID, I made a sculpture that was just like all these hands kind of reaching out. Yeah. And then it looked so much like a COVID molecule. And I was like, no, too soon. Bummer. Yeah. You're like, no, we don't need this in our... I broke that one down. Yeah. That's cool. But it was funny. But I'm sure someone would have bought that and like put it in a public square or something. You know. Maybe. Unfortunately. Like, you're like, it's a little heavy. But it was too much for the time. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
This was amazing.
It was really great. Thank you.
Yay.
Bye.
That's all for this week's episode. Thanks for side wooing with us. We release episodes every other week on Thursday. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please rate, follow, subscribe, and review our podcast for good karma points. Until we meet again in the side woo.